Well, Tia, I'm so glad to have you here again, joining me for the second time. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, happy to be here. We have a loaded topic today.
And we do. And I want to say that first episode that we recorded was so well received with my audience. So I knew that I wanted to have you back. I mean, you can speak to so many different facets of parenting, especially maybe the younger children. Today's topic, like you said, is a little bit loaded: tantrums, meltdowns, how we navigate this. Why don't you quickly go back and introduce yourself just for the listeners that didn't hear that first episode, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah, that last episode was a good one and very well received with my audience as well. I still get parents coming back to me from that episode,
Oh,
asking me, talking to me about it, having questions about it. So that's awesome.
great.
Yeah, so my name is Tia Slightham. I'm a parenting coach. I have two teen boys of my own who are 14 and 16. The oldest just got his driver's license Tuesday and is driving
Oh,
on his own now. So that's a whole new world for me.
sure.
I've been working with kids and families for almost 25 years. Started my career in the kindergarten classroom. So little kids has sort of been my main focus. And over the past decade, I've really expanded in my coaching program. And we work with families who have kids from basically birth to 22 to really help them parent in a way that feels good, that brings about confidence, where you feel like you're respecting your kids, but they also respect you. And you don't need to do that with anger or yelling or force. And it's
Mhm.
just something that parents need to learn because it's not something we're born knowing how to do, but everybody's capable of learning how to do it if it's something that's important to them.
Absolutely. And I think in that last episode, we had talked about, or maybe this was just my takeaway, just that our reactivity and our anger and us having these big emotions, it's natural. And I don't want people to feel horrible that that could be their natural reaction, but it's more about being intentional. Like you said, we have evolved to just kind of like active if when necessary. So it is about stepping out and intentionality and rewiring how we're responding to these behaviors that are also natural for our kids. So
Yeah.
I'm really happy to have you here. Let's get into it. Tantrums versus meltdowns. I think there's an important distinction here to be made, and I wouldn't have thought so before you made that distinction. So I'll let you explain it to my listeners. What's the difference?
Yeah. So to start, humans of all ages have tantrums and meltdowns. So young
Yeah.
adults are having tantrums and meltdowns on the daily. Your teenagers are having tantrums and meltdowns. Your tweens, your school age kids, your toddlers. They are both a form of emotion, and there's nothing wrong with either of them. And I think sometimes what we say with as parents is, knock it off, stop crying, don't act like that, be quiet. Why are you so upset? It's not that big of a deal. And in turn, we're triggered because the loud emotion or the crying or the feelings of not wanting to be around that. But what we're doing is we're telling them that their feelings and emotions aren't okay. And we're not really understanding where those feelings and emotions are coming from and what our kids really need. And we're more trying to just put a band aid on it to get it to go away. As kids grow up with that, they start to feel, oh, I shouldn't have that emotion. I should keep that deep down. I shouldn't share that. Emotions are bad. My feelings are bad. And no feeling is bad. No tantrum or meltdown, they're not bad. We just need to, as parents, understand why that behavior is happening, where it's coming from, what's the cause of that behavior, because tantrums and meltdowns are two totally different behaviors, but yet they look the same.
Absolutely. So that's why it's so important that our response matters and understanding what's happening underneath, allowing us to respond in a way that will be beneficial to them. So before we get into understanding the why, can you just give some practical examples of what a tantrum or a meltdown might look like?
Most of the time, parents will use these terms interchangeably. Oh, my child's
Yeah.
having a massive meltdown. Oh, they're just going from 0 to 60. It's a tantrum. But they don't really know what the behavior is. And so they're lumping them into one category when in fact they're two different behaviors that require two different responses from the parent and two
Yeah.
different things to avoid it from happening over and over and over. And so that when you said in the beginning, we need to be more intentional and more proactive in our parenting.
Mhm.
Understanding this and learning to do these things is what avoids the tantrums. It's what avoids the meltdowns, which is where parenting
Mhm.
gets easier. So let's start with
Mhm.
the symptoms. So the symptoms of tantrums and meltdowns look exactly the same. So it could be for teenagers, slamming doors. I hate you. You're the worst mom. You're the worst dad. I'm going to run away. I don't like you. For younger kids, it could be throwing something, stomping their feet. For little kids, laying down, screaming, refusing to get up off the floor, crying, sweating, pounding, mad, yelling, screaming. Okay. They all, both of those have all of those symptoms. They look exactly the same, which makes it confusing for parents, which is why what I do with the clients I work with is so important is, and we'll talk about this next, is why is the behavior happening? And if you don't know why, you're forever guessing and you're forever walking on eggshells. So, with the symptoms being the same, we need to understand the root causes of each. And so, if we look at the root causes of a tantrum, kind of the general gist is your child is unhappy with a situation. They don't like what you've told them. They want two cookies instead of three, or three cookies instead of two. They don't want to leave the park. They don't want to put their device down. They are refusing to do their homework because they don't want to do it. And they're very unhappy with the situation. They don't like the outcome. They don't like what you're saying. So they are going to show those symptoms of yelling, screaming, being mad to try and get what they want out of that situation. Okay. The difference in the root causes for a meltdown is that we want to think about it as basic physical and emotional overwhelm. They are so overwhelmed by life. They are overtired. They are over hungry. They are overstimulated. They're having anxiety. They just can't deal with it anymore. It's too much to manage. So I like to use sort of the analogy of a pitcher of water, and you're filling it up, but your child is overflowing and you just keep filling it and you keep filling it and filling it and filling it, and they just can't take it. So again, the symptoms look the same, but as you can see, what our child would need in both of those situations are drastically different. And we can talk about what they would need in each of those or go through some examples if that's helpful.
No, I would love that.
Yeah. So some examples, with the tantrums, we kind of talked about when we were going through the differences between the two, but we think about when you all of a sudden tell your child that they need to stop doing something that they're enjoying and do something that they don't want to do, we can often trigger a tantrum. And so what I want parents to think about is in advance, it's best to let your kids know what your expectations are. So if you're going to just all of a sudden call the shots of, hey, it's time to go, we got to leave the park, let's go. It's really hard for your kids to be engaged in something and enjoying something. And then you just say, let's go. So you think about it, if you're watching a show that you're really into and your partner or friend or somebody comes over and just shuts it off and says, time for you to go up, you're going to be like, no, I'm finishing my show. Like, don't do that to me. So we want to put ourselves in our kids' shoes on what that would feel like. So for
Mhm.
tantrums, we can start to avoid some tantrums by giving advance notice, thinking about what's going to happen, giving our kids an understanding of how long they have, what kind of warnings you're going to give them, what can they expect, so they don't feel
Mhm.
like you're ripping the carpet out from under them. Okay. When it
Yeah,
comes
so
to
good.
meltdowns, parents struggle a lot with sleep. And I know
Mm.
that parents who have toddlers and infants, they struggle with sleep. And then sometimes these habits go on for years. And we have kids who are 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 who are still struggling to fall asleep on their own and feel confident that
Mhm.
they can do that. And that's not something that their child isn't capable of doing. It's just we need to learn how to set our boundaries around sleep, teach those skills around sleep. Because if our child is overtired, you are actually going to be seeing meltdowns nonstop. You are going to have
Mhm.
meltdown central from morning to night. And then the challenge is you're also, because you don't have the skills yet, probably seeing tantrums intermixed with that because your boundaries aren't clear and you're calling the shots in the moment and you're trying to overpower them. So then we
Mm.
have this heated sort of episode of tantrums and meltdowns combined. And
Yeah.
so when we think about understanding the why, that's where I help parents start to check off all their boxes so you can be really clear. Hey, my child's not overtired. My child's not over hungry. I can be certain this is a tantrum situation. What do I need to do differently?
Yeah. I mean, and that makes sense for us as adults too. When we're overly tired, we can't handle nearly as much. I feel like I'm much more, yeah, you're just triggered much more by the little things. So our
Yeah.
kids that aren't in full control, of course they're going to
Yeah.
behave in such a manner.
Yeah, and for younger kids in particular, and we're going to talk about the roadmap to really
Yeah.
understanding the why. But the first part of that behavior needs roadmap is their basic needs. And
Yeah.
sleep, nutrition, security, transitions, these are all areas most parents really struggle. They struggle to get
Mhm.
their kids to transition and brush their teeth and get their shoes on and stop doing something. They struggle to get them to go to bed and fall asleep independently and sleep all night. They struggle with meal times, kids demanding certain foods, picky eaters.
Mhm.
They don't want to sit at the table. You're having to give bribes and rewards. If you eat this, then I'll give you dessert. And then what happens is we're triggered by all those things because our kids aren't doing what we need them to do. And then we yell, we remind, we nag, we use bribes, we use rewards. And then we take away that fourth part of their basic needs, which is security. So then when you
Mhm.
think about our skills directly affecting our kids' behaviors, nutrition, meal times, sleep, transitions, if we don't know how to do that in a real positive, disciplined way without punishments, you can see how everything begins to backfire.
Yeah, absolutely. So, how does using your roadmap empower us in that way? It's just understanding that why better.
Yeah, so most of the time we don't know why. So
Mm.
it's, thinking about when you have a headache. And I think we talked about this last time. For those who
Mhm.
didn't hear us, the analogy of a headache really, you know, relates directly, correlates to parenting really, really well. We see our
Mhm.
kids' unwanted behaviors. They don't feel good. We don't like them. We want to get rid of them. Same thing as when we have a headache, we want to get rid of that pain. It doesn't feel good. So we pop an Advil or Tylenol to get rid of that. With parenting, we usually use punishment tactics, yelling
Mm.
reminders, empty threats, taking things away, which is a band aid to the symptoms. So your kid's not listening, your kid's refusing to cooperate, won't get dressed, won't do homework, yelling, whatever it is. Those are
Yeah.
symptoms. Those are things we don't like how it feels, like we don't like how the headache feels. But why we got the headache is most important. It's how we stop the headache from reoccurring. Why our
Mm.
kids are having those symptoms and those behaviors, that's how we stop those behaviors from cycling. So I always say to parents, when you can learn to know the why behind the behavior and actually avoid unwanted behaviors before they even begin, now you're
Yeah.
proactively setting the stage for easy days and easier parenting where your kids feel their best, but so do you. So the behavior needs roadmap is made up of all of the needs that your kids will have, no matter your age of your child. Their,
Yeah.
from their basic needs to their emotional needs to their goals in life and to our parenting skills. And we can break all of
Mhm.
those down. But when you learn how to check all of these boxes, you're really confident as a parent, and you can go on vacation, you can go to restaurants, you can have people in your home, you can go out in public, and you don't need to worry that things are going to go totally fall off the wagon, the wheels are going to fall off the wagon, because you've done your legwork, and that's that proactive legwork again.
Yeah, absolutely. I will pause before we go into anything else that I think that you had prepared. I do want to ask, I think sometimes when I see my 8-year-old behave in such a way, it seems as though he shouldn't be responding in this way. I'm trying to think of an example.
Mhm.
Oh, just the other night it was time to read a book. Usually he and his brother each get to pick one. I read one for each of them. He didn't like that his brother picked a non-Christmas book. And he was really frustrated with me that I let my youngest pick Curious George. And I don't know. I guess it was a tantrum. He probably was tired, but in my head, I was like, why are you acting like this? You seem to be too old to behave this way. So then it starts freaking me out because I think that he shouldn't be responding in such a way. And then I'm elevated.
Mhm.
And then I know I should be lowering my temperature. So yeah, I don't know if you
Yeah,
have
let's
a
talk
response.
about that. Let's
Yeah.
talk about that. So, we're going to try and remove from any of our expectations that our kids should or shouldn't be acting that way. And
Okay.
instead, use the paradigm and the thought process, what could be causing my child to act that way? Like, let's
Hmm.
get curious about it. I mean, even as adults in our relationships, we should be getting curious about somebody's feelings. So let's get curious
Yeah.
about it. The problem is, we're tired at the end of the day. We just want our kids to go to bed and we just want to put our feet up for a minute. So it's hard
Hmm.
to sometimes do that. But in that
Hmm.
moment, there's going to be a reason behind his behavior. So either there's boxes unchecked in that basic needs. So you said he could be tired. He had
Sure.
probably had dinner, so he's not hungry, but maybe he
Hmm.
didn't have a great dinner. So there could be some different variables going on there. His emotional needs of power and attention could be low. So one of the things
Yeah.
you said is, when we read our stories at night, they each get to pick one. And what you're doing is you're reading stories together, the three of you. And
Yeah.
what happens in that moment is our kids don't get a moment to have all the control and all the power, and they worry that their sibling might get more attention than them, that they might have the control, that they might have the power, that you might lean into them more than you're going to lean into the other one. And we actually create some anxiety and we don't
Mm,
fill our kids' power and attention buckets. A simple thing for you to do would be for them to pick their book that they want you to read to them, and then let one look at a book quietly while you go to their room and read their book, tuck them in.
mhm,
I talk about this all the time as golden time.
mhm.
It's a special 10 minutes a day strategy. I think on the last episode, we gave that
Yeah,
away.
yeah.
But when you can separate their bedtime, and even if you do one book together and then they each get their own, finding
Mm,
time alone is critical. One, for
okay,
younger kids, but two, as our kids grow, they need a place where they can open up about something that they might not want to open up with a sibling there. And when you
okay.
start to create that nighttime routine where, hey, I'll be in to see you, do the younger one first, read the story, scratch their back, sing a quick song, tuck them in, let the older one look at books quietly, you have this like relaxation time and you get to really bond and connect, and you don't worry about any sibling rivalry or people acting up. And then you go to your other one and they know they get their time. And in
Mm,
that moment, you would have avoided him being
mhm,
frustrated by his brother's book. But I think his frustration wasn't, my brother chose that story. It's, I need some power and some control and some attention. And when my
mhm.
brother's here, I'm not feeling like I'm getting that. So how can we create some of those moments, even just 10 minutes at night, for him to get that?
Such good advice. I think that you've hit the nail on the head with that one. I think especially the summertime's different because our kids are home with us. And I remember at the beginning of the school year this year, my boys specifically were just so concerned about going back to school and their time with me. It was more so than previous years. They were really concerned about that time with me. So I think you're totally right, and that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
And that's going to make bedtime easier as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I cannot these days with the sibling rivalry. It's definitely ramping up.
It's going to help dramatically separating them and giving them some alone time. And if you can do that
Okay.
for 10 minutes during the day as well at some point, where you just connect with one on their own, or you're snuggling and watching a show by yourself for one, or you're going
Yeah.
for a walk, just be cognizant of, am I giving them alone time, even for
Yeah.
just 10 minutes in the morning and for their book and tuck in at night.
Okay. Yeah. So good. So good. You were talking about how to respond in the moment and just like being aware of those basic needs. Is there anything else you want to speak to on how we can help address it in the moment?
Yeah. So when you look through the roadmap, and I'm happy to give you a copy of the
Mhm.
roadmap that we can share out with your listeners as well if they'd like
Yeah.
to see all the boxes and everything as well. Underneath your child's goals, which is one of the key pillars, all
Hmm.
kids are born with two jobs. One's to
Yeah.
please you and one's to push boundaries. So a
Mm.
lot of times, and this kind of leads back to what we talked about in the beginning, not calling the shots in the moment, is our kids are going to push boundaries until boundaries are found. And so
Mm.
if you use your story example last night, he was going to get mad about it, have a meltdown or tantrum about it. We don't know yet because there's too many variables, but he was going to
Hmm.
have those feelings about that situation.
Hmm.
And what we want to do is think, okay, how could I set some boundaries that are concrete, clear, and consistent around
Yeah.
bedtime to avoid this from happening night after night? Because what
Mm.
happens is we get reactive because it's the
Yeah.
same thing over and over and over. And like you said, he knows better. He shouldn't act
Hmm.
like that. He's old enough to act differently. So then
Hmm.
we're very triggered by it. But the challenge
Hmm.
is they're born to push boundaries until boundaries are found. So if you stay in the current cycle you're in and you just tell him to knock it off or stop doing it, or it's not that big of a deal and it doesn't matter, you chose your book, he's choosing his book, and we're engaging in it, we're not
Hmm.
really setting up a boundary. So if we look at, your example, and we say, okay, how could we set this up? I'm going to separate them. I'm going to let them know they can each choose two books and it's two books
Hmm.
only. How can I put that on, a list, a bedtime list, or for younger kids, a bedtime chart? We're going to read two books. We're going to have one song. I'm going to scratch your back for 5 minutes and then I'm going to leave. So
Yeah.
it's not, hey, can I have a back scratch tonight? No, 2 minutes longer. No, can I have a
Mm.
drink of water? Oh, no, I want three books. The boundaries are gray and your kids are going to
Mhm.
push them until they're found. So a lot of times we say to ourselves, well, my kids know better. They've heard me tell them what to do, but we're not really setting those boundaries in a concrete, clear, consistent way. And we're inconsistent. And so they're doing an
Yeah.
A+ job on their end of pushing to try and find it. We're not doing an A+ job on our end. We're too inconsistent.
Yeah. So good. Is there anything else we didn't touch on that you wanted to make sure we did?
Well, I think it's really important for everybody who's listening to know, like you said in the beginning, don't blame yourself. We all have feelings and emotions as parents.
Yeah.
Do not blame yourself. Parenting is not intuitive, it's a learned skill. Everybody just needs a new set of skills. The way we were raised is not the way we can raise kids today. We need different skills than our parents had. You know, the punishments, the yelling, the reminders don't work. And if you're stuck in
Mhm.
that cycle, use it as an awareness flag. Hey, I want to do better. I want to learn how to parent differently. This doesn't feel good to me. I never
Mhm.
judge anybody. You get to parent how you want to parent. You guys get to do what feels good to you. But if you don't like your cycles, you're feeling like your relationship's being, kind of strained with your kids, it's
Mhm.
feeling negative. You go to bed at night scrolling Instagram, looking for tips and tricks and feeling guilty and crying because you've yelled and screamed and lost it on your kids. There's a
Yeah.
much easier way. And when you learn the skills, you can totally accomplish what you want to accomplish, just like learning to knit or becoming an accountant or doing whatever job you want to do. You can't do it
Mhm.
without the skills. So don't blame yourself. Just know if you want to do better, you absolutely can.
Well, and such good advice with the book separating that time because I've always just, ever since I've started having children, it's like, okay, you're welcome in the bed now. Okay, you're added to the bed, but it isn't that individual time. And I think you're right. I think the emotional needs of my kids, especially now that they're back in school, they're not being met. So great advice. I'm going to have to let you know. I'll message you and let you know how that
Yeah.
works out for me.
Yeah. So it is great advice. And it'll be the thing. I had a mom crying on a video last week telling me that her 5 year old and her were so in such a distraught place, and her daughter
Yeah.
hated her and didn't want to be around her and was so angry all the time. And after implementing golden time, which is 10 minutes in the morning, 10 minutes at night, one on
Hmm.
one parent, one child, doing
Yeah.
something your child loves to do. So in the morning, it could be a game or an activity, but at night, they're just choosing their books. So you're not
Yeah.
adding on anything, and you're really putting your phone away and you're unplugging and you're giving it a name. So my son named it Golden Time when he was, 5, and that's
Hmm.
always stuck, but you can just call it special time or mommy and me
Hmm.
time or whatever. When you use
Hmm.
those ingredients and you do that consistently, like
Yeah.
Catherine said on her video in tears, that is the number one thing, and we've worked together for a number of months, that is the number one thing that changed her relationship with her daughter. And you will
Hmm.
see they start to open up to you, they start to talk to you, the communication lines are open, they feel safe, they feel secure, they feel
Yeah.
heard, they feel seen. And if you're really struggling with sibling rivalry, there's going to be other things we need to do as well, but one of the things will be, hey, I need my one-on-one relationship with each of my kids, because yes, they're
Mhm.
my kids, but they're individuals.
Yeah, so good. Well, Tia, I will be sure to include everything in the show notes that you have sent me, but just tell listeners here where they can find you online.
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Tia Parenting Coach. So TIA Parenting Coach. There's bazillions of videos and tips and tricks and information for you to see what's possible. So don't hesitate to DM and reach out, and we'll send you some awesome resources.
Perfect. Well, I know it's been like a month or two since we last talked, but I still will ask you these two questions I asked to finalize the episode. The first one is, what's been a beneficial resource in your life you want to share with the listeners?
Coaches, coaches,
Coaches. Yeah.
coaches in all different realms. I would say
Mm,
therapists for mental health. I would say nutrition coaches and physical, fitness coaches for
mhm.
my health, business coaches. I think everybody can benefit from a coach.
Yeah.
And I think asking for help is a really big strength and not a weakness. And I hope
Mhm.
that parents and everybody listening can realize how important it is to know that we aren't experts in everything, and asking
Yeah.
for help can be such a strength and such a place of growth for you.
Great advice. I totally agree. Last question is, what is something you can't stop talking about?
Oh, I can't stop talking about. Oh my gosh. Oh, you want to know what? It's kind of random, but I was watching the show The Hunting Wives.
Oh, I've watched it as well.
And
Oh,
what I can't stop talking about is that we were watching it when my mom was in town visiting. And
oh
every time
man.
somebody brings it up, I'm like, well, my mom was watching it with me. And she kept saying, well, Tia, this is a bit racy. And I'm like, it is a bit racy. So I feel like in every conversation, wherever we go, somebody says something about The Hunting Wives, and I can't stop talking about my mom saying how racy it was.
That's hilarious. I read the book, and the book is racy. It's a little further than I usually tend to go, but I was like, I'm almost done with it. And I wanted to figure out what happened. Then I'm like, oh, I'll watch the show. It's on Netflix. I haven't watched a show in a while, and yeah, I couldn't turn away, but it was pushing it. I
Yeah.
totally know what your mom's
Yeah.
saying.
And she's watching it with me and my husband. And so she's like, a little racy. I'm like, a little
Yeah,
racy.
That's hilarious. So funny. Well, Tia, thank you. As I said last time, you're welcome back anytime. Open invitation to the show. You always have the best advice. So thanks for joining me again today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I think we dive into sibling rivalry next time.
Oh, yes. I need help with that. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
let's do it. Thanks for having me.